How do you go about getting the power that you're able to produce out to your end range of motion? That's probably the question that you're left with after the first part of this video, where we discuss what explosive power is and how we can properly train for it. In this video, we're going to be discussing how we can improve our joint stability and control. We're also going to be covering why the standing power toss, the second event in the Army's new combat fitness test, is sometimes referred to as a physical therapist test, and why that has such a cool reason behind it. My name is Benjamin Morris. I'm a tactical strength and conditioning facilitator, military master fitness trainer, a master resilience instructor, and a former Army drill sergeant. And preceding my name anywhere I go is the title Pacific Best Warrior. Leading off with, there's two reasons why we take PT tests. The first is very obvious, to ensure that you can meet those minimal physical standards to be a member of that profession. The second one, the one that doesn't get near as much discussion, is that we have to take physical performance tests to ensure that there are not injuries, past or present, that can affect your performance whenever you find yourself in the life and death scenarios that you volunteered for your profession. Now, regardless of what capabilities that you have, if you move forward into a battlefield, and this is a pretty ruthless and unforgiving place, if you have injuries that start to affect your capabilities there, these can be very catastrophic, very quickly to yourself or your unit or team. Having some type of program or system that your supervisor or commander can evaluate and be able to put in place some type of program to help them heal and remodel and repair from those past or present injuries, that can greatly increase the overall capacity of a unit, team, or of an individual. So that's the second reason why we have to have these physical fitness tests and why they're so important. And that is also the reason why this test, the standing power toss, this is sometimes referred to as a physical therapist test. Because if there are injuries that were poorly cared for or are laying dormant, this test becomes a whole lot more difficult to try to do if those were poorly addressed in the past. So whenever commanders or supervisors see an individual struggling during an event inside any physical fitness test, but especially during the standing power toss, this is actually identifying that there is something laying dormant here. There is something here that's preventing this individual from being able to do this easily, because the standing power toss should be a very easily passed exercise. And if there are ailments, if there are things that were poorly healed, if there are current injuries that are not being allowed to be addressed correctly, their performance is greatly going to decrease. And just being able to toss that 10-pound ball downrange is going to become very more difficult. But the point of this video is to not only teach you how to throw it to the minimum, but to teach you how to throw it to the max. And that's where we're going to start to move into a few very simple exercises and drills that you can have inside your daily training routine that can really leave you with that high level of preparedness going into the standing power toss. Now, none of these movements are really overly crazy, sexy things to be doing in the gym. But what they will do is improve your overall range of motion and the control and the stability of those joints. If you're currently enrolled or engaged in some type of training program that doesn't do a good job of improving or addressing your range of motion, that's a sign that you're not in a very good training program and that you really need to start searching for another one. One other note on range of motion exercises is that there's an individualization that has to occur on them. We've all had different injuries in our life, and all of our bodies are very different. And the injuries and the repair process that has occurred is also vastly different. So as you start to go through range of motion exercises, remember that they need to be individualized to you. You're going to have your own that sets you up and to improve your own range of motion. Almost think of these as being prescribed, right? You need to have your own range of motions prescribed to you individually. In this video, we're just going to be giving you some good generalized ones that if you are close to being able to max, they should be there to help you push over that last little bit. So that way you can toss that 10-pound ball 12 plus meters downrange on test day. Leading off with, we're going to be doing what's referred to as a wall roller blade. It's a very simple exercise. We're going to be standing facing the wall, and we're going to take a foam roller. With the foam roller, we're going to make two knife hands, and we're going to press it against the wall and bring our nose all the way up to the foam roller. I'm not a big fan of having your toes against the wall, but do try to lean forward slightly against it. So knife hands against the foam roller and nose all the way up against it. At that point, I want you to signal as if you're trying to signal somebody just scored a field goal, right? Raise your hand straight up over top of head. And once you've reached your full range of motion, try to bring it all the way back down to, once again, the foam rollers return back down to your nose. Once you've done that, back up and back down. What this is doing is helping improve your range of motion within your thoracic spine. This is generally the mobility of all the joints that are attached to your rib cage. That's really what we're going to be working a lot with this one. So we're just going up and down, nice and simple, making sure that good range of motion, the shoulder blades are able to come out and the shoulders able to freely move up over top, because that will matter a lot whenever we're trying to toss that 10-pound ball. Now, there's also ways that we can escalate this. We can do what's referred to as a praying rollerblade. We're going to take the exact same foam roller, we're going to set it down on the ground, we're going to go down on our knees onto the ground, and we're going to do the same thing to where we have knife hands, foam roller attached to our forearms, and we're going to try to bring your nose as close as we can down to the foam roller. Try to have your butt touching your heels, but also remember your range of motion here is important. If it's not there, it's not there. The important part is to be able to get that nose down to the foam roller. Once you're here, try to press straight up ahead, signal once again as if you're trying to, somebody just scored a field goal. Once you're all the way up, return it all the way back down. Try to bring that foam roller back down to your nose. Same thing as before. This time we've just changed the way that gravity is affecting the exercise. One time we were standing up, now we're down face down to the ground. Both these exercises can do a really good job at improving your range of motion. Whether you be standing or kneeling on the ground, they are both very simple things that you can have inside of your training program. Moving on to the next one, we're going to be doing what's referred to as a golf club stretch. For this exercise, all you're going to need is some type of long wooden pole. This can be a broomstick. We're using a PVC pipe. I want you to hold it out in front of you as if you're holding a golf club about to take a swing. Now, starting with either your right or left hand, you're going to take and release the other one to where only one hand's holding it. So with only one hand holding it, you're going to take and flip the golf club or the wooden dowel or PVC pipe over top of your shoulder. Whenever we do this, we're going to hold that same grip. Whenever it's all the way over, we want to have it intersect forearm, so that way it should be perfectly in the middle of our upper arm. Right, same grip, elbows at a good 90-degree angle. Whatever hand that we released at the start with, we're going to reach in front of our body and we're going to reach and grab the bottom of that wooden pole or PVC pipe, and then we're going to start to pull forward and cause our hand to have to rotate back behind the shoulder, our elbow to start to have to rotate forward. This is a really great stretch to improve that shoulder health and mobility. It does a really good job of helping the shoulder blades themselves start to stretch out too. Help you control that force whenever you throw that 10-pound ball. The next exercise that we're going to be going over with is thoracic band wood chopper. For this exercise, we are going to need a band and somewhere that we're going to be able to mount it. And you want to mount it whenever you're standing at roughly about hip height. That's what you're looking to find, somewhere that you can secure it good and down. You want to move off at an angle. You don't want the band directly behind you. Now, I prefer for people to do this in the seated position. You can do this in the kneeling position, but you should absolutely not to do this in the standing position. And we'll cover why at the end. So from that seated position, we're going to take and hold the band with our left hand, push straightly out and push all the way out in front of us, and then we're going to take our right hand and fold over top. Once again, make sure that band is running off at a slight angle from where you're actually seated. So from the seated position, we're going to start to rotate to our left to the point to where we feel our hips actually start to move or pick up. Or if you're in a kneeling position, to where you actually start to feel your hips slightly turn. That's what we're looking for. So once we get to that point to where we've realized our shoulders have turned all the way and our hips are wanting to actually pick up off the seat, then we're going to snap back in a very quick movement with as much force as we can and make sure we try to stop back at the starting position. Once we're there, we're going to very slow controlled manner go all the way back, allowing us to go to that full, allowing the band to relax as much as possible, go to its full relaxed position, allow it for it to turn us as far as we can. Once we reach that position to, like I said, our right hip in this scenario is starting to raise up off the seat, then we're going to snap back all the way to the start position. Make sure you get equal number of reps on either side. What this exercise is doing is the control that's required to go through our shoulders and shoulder blades whenever we generate that force. This is helping it build up and accustom to that, controlling that force. That's really what this is trying to address. This is not a core exercise, and that's why you don't do it in the standing position, because if you try to do this standing up, it becomes much more of a core exercise and much less of a thoracic exercise. And the difference between the two is, remember, your thoracic spine is basically everything that has a rib attached to it. Your lumbar or your core region is everything that doesn't. And we're not trying to address and improve those in this exercise. We're trying to address our thoracic spine. So make sure that we get equal numbers of repetitions on our left and right, and then we can start to move on to the next exercise, and this is referred to as an Axeman Drill. Now, before we move into this, remember that the purpose of this exercise is that we're trying to increase our overall performance at the standing power toss. And prior, we talked about how we were going to increase our explosive power. The first steps of this exercise is us learning how to control that force whenever we're trying to toss that 10-pound ball. So while you can do this with triple extension, to start with, do this as a very hip hinge exercise. So we're going to be standing with the band anchored out in front of us at roughly hip height. We're going to take an overhand grip on the band. We're going to take a few steps back, and with that hip hinge, right, so stomach's good and tight, heels good and planted on the ground, try to pull that band down in between your knees, hinging at the hips. Once you're there, try to swing up and try it with your heel staying planted down the ground. Try to pull that band to where your fists have traveled over or past your shoulders without thrusting your hips forward. This is going to be the difference that you find in it. Whenever you try to go through full hip thrust and triple extension in your feet and knees, your heels are inherently going to want to leave the ground and your toes are going to want to take over, which is fine whenever you're training this to help improve that triple extension. But as I said earlier, we're doing this to try to help improve that thoracic mobility, to help our shoulders train to increase that overall force. That's why we're going to make sure our heels stay down on the ground and we're not going to try to overly thrust our hips forward. We're just trying to pull our hands back as far as we can behind our shoulder and have them get accustomed to holding on to that force. Continue on repetitions. You're going to take and pull that band all the way down between your knees, and once again swing up high, trying to get your fist behind your shoulders, making sure that your heels don't leave the marching surface. Keep your heels down the marching surface. This is not about overextending your hips. This is about helping your shoulders learn to control the force that's going to go through them whenever they have to toss that 10-pound ball. The next exercise of drills I'm going to give you can either be used as a stretching exercise or as some type of dynamic warm-up. You can do either one of them. We're going to be doing a wall drill to where we're going to be standing just parallel to the wall, looking along the wall itself. To start off with, we're going to do what's referred to as a wall windmill, to where we're going to take and lunge back with the foot that's farthest away from the wall. Allow that knee to come down to the marching surface so the foot that's closest to the wall will stay down onto the ground. That knee will be pressed up against the wall. We're going to take and have two knife hands, palms facing each other, straight out in front of us. So to perform the windmill, we're going to take the back of the hand that's closest to the wall. We're going to start and take rotating it in a rainbow half moon scenario over top to where we're turning our body and our chest and face are going all the way against the wall. Going through that good full range of motion, your palms as far away as you can from each other. It's very normal for the palm to actually have to rotate during this exercise. Both palms are facing the wall, nose is touching the wall. We can also do what's referred to as a wall open stretch, staying in that same position with that knee, that foot that's down on the ground, staying closest to the wall. Once again, knife hands, palms facing each other. We're going to leave the palm that's closest against the wall, leave it there, and we're going to swing open our chest and allow our arms to swing all the way open, fully opening up our chest and trying to contract our back as much as we can. This is just the opposite version of the exercise that we just did. It's a good range of motion exercise that can really benefit you in trying to get from 11 meters up to 12.5 meters in training for the standing power toss. Now, as we start to finish off this video, I want to talk about in range of strength training. Doesn't really exist as trying to increase the overall strength that you have at your in range of motion. That's not something that you can actually do. We do this by addressing the strength at the base of the joints, right? At the ability for the base joint to have good stability and control whenever force is either asked to absorb or to move out from it. If you do engage in some exercises that are needed to increase your in range of strength, remember to think of them in the aspect of not trying to work out to hypertrophy, but rather think of them in the aspect of trying to go through an injury prevention process. You're doing this exercise not to wear out a joint, not to wear out a muscle to where you're causing muscular damage and giving it a chance to grow back stronger. Rather, you're trying to get your body accustomed to that force and that weight out at that in range of motion, so that when and if it ever was to occur, the body has seen it before and it's able to react to it. Think of it in injury prevention or injury resistance training. This concludes our video. My name is Benjamin Morris, and here at Outtrained, we do training programs for the individuals whose lives depend on their body's ability to perform. So if that's you, please contact us. I thank you all very much for your support. Please hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out a lot. Leave any comments or suggestions you have down below. And remember, pressure is a privilege, and out.